intention tonight is to let people say what they think about this scheme. Now, as you know, and as this turnout shows, it is a very contentious scheme. And there are strong opinions on both sides. But before we start, can I ask everybody to listen to the opinions of others, to treat others with respect, and to give them the opportunity to speak. Now, I did ask the council member, Geoffrey Theobald, the Cabinet Member for Transport and the Environment, to come tonight to talk to this meeting. In my view, he quite wisely didn't. And I also asked the officers to come, and they felt that as this was not part of the official process, it was inappropriate. And I'm not going to attack them for that. It is difficult. They are in a difficult position. They will be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a brief background about how this came about, and I'm also then going to read a statement from those against and give the argument for, which has come from those who are for the scheme. I should say that I've had a written statement for those against. I just have the leaflet for those for the scheme. Now this whole scheme started because there was pressure from residents living near Queen's Park Road and on the furthest southern extreme of Hanover. In Queen's Park Road, they asked for a controlled parking scheme because the overflow from the scheme that had been introduced in Queen's Park was causing problems. Well, okay, let me finish. You can talk in a minute. Not everybody did, of course. The other pressure came from people living in Hanover near Albion Hill who had complained that their streets are treated like car parks by, they say Amex, it's not just Amex, it's all sorts of organisations who employ people who come into the city to work in the day, leave their cars and go home at night. Now their concerns were reported to the council and the consultation process started. Now the council's officers produced a scheme that covers an area that is much wider than Hanover, the original area from which the complaints came, and they felt a larger area should be consulted because they were concerned about overflow problems, which is what produced some of the arguments in the first place in the Queen's Park Road area. And I've had a briefing from the officers who were responsible for this, and I will email this out to everybody who wants it, or post it to those who don't have emails. But now I'm going to read the statements from the two sides, if you like. No, it's okay, I do. Now, the Yes to Residents Parking Group are for the scheme because they say, you might not agree with them all, they say this will put an end to pavement parking. There will be no more bikes blocking pavements, enforceable laws against inconsiderate and dangerous parking, and greener, more people, friendlier streets for everyone. They say the residents on this side of Elm Grove, because these are people... Okay, I'm sorry, I'm doing my best in difficult circumstances. They say that their problems in Hanover are different from people on this side of Elm Grove, but they say in the heart of central Hanover, a residents' parking scheme could make a difference on all these issues. They point out that nearly half, 46% of households in the old Hanover ward boundaries don't have use of a car or van, and that the streetscape is dominated by parked vehicles. And they want to see a shift towards a neighbourhood where space is shared more fairly between pedestrians, cyclists and motorists. So that is their argument. It's an argument that's been made to me many times by people, principally who live on that side of Elm Grove in Hanover. Now, those people, and they're mostly from this side of the road, but there are people along here who've contacted me in these streets here, Carlisle, Arnold and Baxter, Cobden and Bentham. They say no to the controlled parking zone. There is a lot of resistance in Southover, isn't it?
Yeah, and in Hanover.
I might just say what the No campaign is saying. They say they're a broad and diverse group of residents and businesses that have come together in opposition to the proposal, including some of those from Hanover, where 3 separate groups have sprung up. Through their petition, they've canvassed the feeling of businesses, and none are in favour of the scheme. Pubs, shops, studios, cafes, takeaways are very worried about the negative effect this proposal could have. In these difficult times, some may even close or relocate. Ironically, this will encourage more car use and force residents to drive to supermarkets, who will be one of the few beneficiaries of this scheme. Yeah. We do understand there are problems in certain streets, but do not believe a CPZ is the answer. By its nature, it will be divisive and push problems from street to street, community to community. Our issue is with the council and not neighbours. We have to remain focused and as a community come up with sustainable solutions that will benefit everyone. This proposal, they argue, is not linked to any coherent transport strategy for supporting green initiatives and dealing with congestion. Despite the huge income raised by the council from parking, Brighton buses are irregular and overpriced. We have seen no evidence of improvements in the transport infrastructure, and until this happens, it is wrong to penalise car-owning residents. Additionally, an outcome of the council failing to manage the conversion of family housing to houses in multiple occupation has resulted in a disproportionate increase in cars in some streets. The permits cost too much, the highest in the country. There is no ring fencing of income for sustainable transport in the community. Hello? Yes! There is no... There is no ring fencing of income for sustainable transport or community initiatives. Something that we have asked for. The cost does not reflect car size or CO2 emissions, something else we've asked for, and the proposed restrictions are heavy, including weekends, 9 to 8 p.m. This is a blatant revenue earner for the council, and like so many initiatives, like train travel, and it will end up privatising the income taken out of the community. They claim the consultation is misleading. Their own figures suggest a 50% reduction in resident parking places, and you know from your own streets that this is not workable, as overnight the streets are full with residents' cars returning from work. Experience in Hove and Preston Park has shown not enough places for residents at night who have to drive around in circles for ages trying to find that elusive space. Yeah. The scheme suggests it would be easier to park outside your home with the space reduction. This will not be the case. Other parking areas now have waiting lists for permits. Local estate agents who've signed the petition say this will reduce the value of your homes. Yeah. Displacement has been given as a threat. If you vote against, you inherit other people's congestion. This is not choice or consensus, just passing problems on. The Queen's Park scheme has resulted in empty streets during the day and more cars parking in Hanover.
Speak up!
Those on the borders of existing schemes face congestion as a consequence. The referenced parking problems during the day apply to a minority of streets and do not represent the majority of streets across the zone. They also argue that only one vote per household is not democratic, as it penalises families. The scheme does not provide for households that need more than one car. For example, those who have a company car or are shift workers working late when there is no public transport. It takes no account of key workers, teachers, nurses, doctors, either living or coming to work in the scheme at schools like this one, where we need to retain staff. We have no confidence that the parking scheme will address the real concerns of the community.